end of the year testing them on medication. So testing them on medication, assuming that it worked, we should have found that the test scores were better. This is what we did find. These are all the questions we asked, and I'm going to put to you very simply the things that we found in this outcome study. We wanted to know academic outcome, the parents' report of global psychopathology. When ADHD gets sick, children get sick, they get sick everywhere. This disorder is 90% comorbid, and one of the possibilities is that ADHD is a hard enough illness to live with that the likelihood is you will get anxiety or depression or stubbornness or get into trouble or have trouble with learning. In other words, I believe ADHD is a risk factor for other forms of psychopathology. So academic outcome, global psychopathology. The third one we did, yay us. I grew up in the age of ADHD treating teachers. I have lived through the age of ADHD to treat parents. I wanted to know what the children saw. So the measure that we used for psychopathology is a terrific global battery called the Behavioral Assessment System for Children, done by parents. We added the same scale, the Behavioral Assessment System for Children, completed by the children themselves with a research assistant helping them. This is what we found. We found that there were very slight improvements in academic functioning after 1 year of treatment. But what was really interesting about that, this is an age where you get hit by arithmetic. Between 8 and 11 is when children discover that God has invented a uniquely ADHD-based form of human torture called adding, subtracting, multiplying, and I'm not going to say division because they never get there. Okay? Once they hit long division, they get a calculator. Math calculation got worse. We don't know what that means because we don't have a control group, but we do know that as they hit that developmental challenge, even though their ADHD did beautifully, okay? ADHD symptoms went down, they stayed down, they were perfect. But academic functioning didn't have anything to write home about. Anything on the achievement testing that was conceptual, they actually got math concepts. That got better. Calculation and fluency got worse. In fact, as they get older and the expectations get higher, despite the fact that these children had a full response in ADHD symptoms, they did not normalize or come anything to it. In fact, they were losing ground on reading, writing, and arithmetic fluency. And I realized at that point that fluency and ADHD are two sides of the same coin. Fluency demands working memory. It demands the capacity to hold things in mind. So what happened then on the BASC? When ADHD got better, everything got better. Happiness got better. Depression, anxiety, aggression, irritability, and the positive social measures within the BASC also got better. So interesting now, isn't it? All we ever looked at was a symptom checklist, but now I have two new pieces of information for you. Improvement in ADHD symptoms mediates improvement in parent view of global psychopathy. ADHD symptoms did not mediate change in academic functioning. There was no impact and no correlation between the improvement in ADHD symptoms and how they did academically, and that was true even if we stratified by learning disability. What did the children tell us? Well, the children were really great. They told us something which I think is really cute and is extremely pertinent to these issues of compliance and persistence. When they did the BASC and self-reported on themselves at the baseline prior to treatment, even though everybody hated them, their parents were fed up with them, their father was divorcing their mother because why couldn't she control this thing? And they were all in crisis. The children's perception was that they were operating well into the normal range in all areas. That's actually not such a small thing. We have dismissed child report because they don't get it. When I say to a child, "So, Fred, how's the medication working?" "It's great." "Oh, I'm really glad to hear you say that, actually. Most children don't see very much." And he said, "No, I didn't change. My teacher's much better. I was going to ask you about that. I take the pill and my teacher gets better. How do you do that?" So what was really cool? No problems at the beginning. We measure the BASC a year later, and the children rank very clear improvement. They never saw the problem in the first place that got quite a bit better when they were retested later on. I'll tell you why I think that's important. Sometimes we all know it's not good to be paranoid, right? Sometimes you're paranoid and you're right. It's still not good to be paranoid. However, is it good to be pronoid? Is it good to wake up in the morning, have your mother screaming at you, get to school, forget your homework? The teachers are far less forgiving than Adele when you forget your homework, like I did. They actually give you no credit, which doesn't happen today. And then you go out in the schoolyard. The kids won't let you play. They actually usually have 2 or 3 bullies that really find it fun to push your buttons and watch you explode. You only have to push a little bit and woo, look what happens. Let's see what happens now when we push that kid's buttons twice. And then you come home, and again, what do you have at home? You haven't been able to pay attention all day. You're cranky, you're in rebound, you're irritable. And what happens at home? Do your homework. I'm not doing my homework. If you don't do your homework, you're staying in your room for the rest of the night and the rest of your life. I don't care. I'm going to stay in my room. I don't care. You can't do anything to me. Okay? And then that child comes to work the next day and fills out a rating scale and says he's happy, everyone loves him, and things are going fine. What is that? I actually think that the best way to describe that, and it's been described in the literature, that's a positive illusory bias. Children with ADHD have been granted immunity for seeing, actually, how incredibly difficult their lives are in childhood. If a child with ADHD doesn't have a positive illusory bias, they are often depressed, even suicidal. I saw a child 2 weeks ago in an extended protocol which included getting his quality of life, and he rated his satisfaction, and so did his mother rate his satisfaction, something that statistically can't exist. The scale is on a T-score, which goes from 0 to 100 with 50 just about right. I never saw a T-score of -17. I actually don't know how you do that. But when I looked at that, I said to the child, "You described on the forms that you filled out, and so did your mom, that you're very unhappy." And he said, "Yeah, I really want to die. I really, really want to die." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I've wanted to die for a long time now, and it doesn't go away. But if you lived my life with how it goes, you would also want to be dead." And I went, oh my God, this child doesn't have positive illusory bias. And what am I going to do? So what's the downside of a positive illusory bias? The downside is that the children don't have too much trouble stopping the medication because they don't see on a daily basis the impairment that the medication is correcting.